So because we're in a surplus position, the change in fiscal rules will have some effect, but the effect will be a lot smaller than countries that are running a deficit at the moment. The fiscal rules are likely to point to a rate of change in relation to spending, but that rate of change is something that we're already committed to doing in Ireland. So because we're beginning from a surplus position, it will have an impact, but the impact will be very different to countries who are beginning all of this with a deficit. Hold on, I'm just going to let Christine go first, because you went first, then I'll come right to you, Tony. Yeah. So, as we begin a debate about the funding for the European Union budget, all the familiar arguments will be revisited. The Commission will be bringing forward proposals with regard to own resources, and as part of that, they will be tabling many different issues that have been discussed before. But Ireland has already made a major contribution to the change in global corporate tax policy by our participation in the OECD process. And we have now passed at second stage the finance bill that will bring about in effect a 15% minimum effective tax rate. So I think we've made a huge contribution to it, and I expect limited change in this area in the future beyond the implementation of the OECD process, which of itself is going to bring about a lot of change for countries. Sorry, Tony? Yeah.
Obviously, there are discussions about resources and on those, it will inevitably fall on member states to make bigger contributions. Do you think it's inevitable that Ireland will face a much bigger net contribution in years to come, just given the pressures that we are seeing and the need, of course, to repay the COVID recovery loans?
So given that the main factor that determines your scale of contribution to the European Union budget is how your economy performs, it's very difficult to be absolutely clear regarding who could be paying more in the future. But Ireland is already a net contributor. We're already now per capita one of the largest contributors to the European Union budget, and I believe that's appropriate. We've benefited from this budget at many times in the past. We continue to benefit from it, and I would certainly make the case for maintaining that level of contribution. As I look at the debate and negotiation that's underway, we're going to continue to be large contributors to the EU budget and to the future EU budget. But I think for that contribution to grow even more in the future, we'd also want to be very clear regarding how that will benefit the European Union in a way that would also be of help to Ireland in the long term. So it's a little too early to say if there's going to be any further contribution from any country, but Ireland's already one of the largest net contributors on a per capita basis.
Are you going to ask Meloni information on the ratification of the ESM?
I'm going to continue to be making the case for the ratification of the ESM treaty. This treaty is a really important element of how we can deepen banking union, and in particular will ensure that the European Stability Mechanism, that is our crisis management tool, would have access to many further tens of billions of euro in the future if it needed it. It's in the interest of all of us that ESM treaty is ratified, and I will continue to work closely with Minister Giorgetti with regard to that. I continue to appreciate that this is a really sensitive issue within Italian politics. I know it's been the subject of a lot of debate within the Italian Parliament. I fully respect that. Every country has issues that are sensitive to them, and I know this is such an issue for the Italian Parliament, and I respect that debate. But the priority that we will all face is if the treaty is not ratified by everyone, no country will be able to access it in the future if we're in a crisis situation. I think all leaders are aware of the importance of the ESM treaty. We've touched on it before. It's mainly discussed at finance minister level within Eurogroup. I have an excellent relationship with Minister Giorgetti. I appreciate this as a sensitive topic, but even if Italy decides they don't want to use the ESM in any way in the future, which is absolutely their decision that I think everybody would understand. On the other hand, there may be other countries who might decide to use that tool in the future, and this treaty is about facilitating that. I'll just take two more questions, then I've got to go. Christian.
When do we expect the decision to actually go to cabinet for decisions to be made about the reform of those policies?
I believe that will happen soon, but this is an issue that's already been discussed at many different levels within government. It's been discussed a number of times in the Ukraine Cabinet Subcommittee, and we regularly discuss policy issues in relation to migration and our support for the people of Ukraine at war who are facing this terrible war. And the discussion that happened in Cabinet earlier in the week is just part of that deliberative process. So I'd expect that it will conclude soon. The government has not made a decision on that yet. This is a complex matter. The Irish people, the Irish state, have shown a remarkable ability to support nearly 100,000 people that have come to our country in the last 2 years. We just need to consider how we can continue to do this in the future and do so in a way that is sustainable. The government hasn't made the decision on the matter. We're aware of the many consequences of any decision that we make, and I'd expect that in the next few weeks the matter will be considered again.
Why do you think you're spending more time, more money on
generally, or for Ireland, or for Europe, or for Europe? Okay. Look, the big changes that we're making because of a war, because of climate change, and because of the need to make our economies more digital are clearly going to have to be prioritised in the years ahead. The amount of change that governments will need to make to adapt to climate change and to invest in trying to reduce the tragedy of climate change is huge. But as we're all aware, at a time in which the cost of borrowing is going up, governments can't do that on their own. And that's why the work that we're doing on Capital Markets Union is so important. Okay? I'll see you all later on, okay? Thanks a million.